In today's video, we're going to be taking apart and completely rebuilding these redwing 1945 Clapton Classic boots in UK size 8.5E. So, since filming that intro, the plan has changed. The time has come to announce that we are now officially a redwing repair centre. This means that we can fit genuine redwing soles and components to your boots and shoes when the time comes that you need a resole. To celebrate this, we are giving away this pair of redwing model number 1945 Clapton Classic boots to a randomly selected subscriber of this channel. I am fully aware that the person that I randomly select might not actually want these shoes or could be a completely different shoe size. So that randomly selected subscriber can choose to swap this pair of shoes for a full rebuild, including footbeds and welts, to a pair of their own redwing shoes using genuine redwing soles. With that said, let's get back to rebuilding these boots. As you may have noticed, these boots have actually been resoled before, at least once, and not by me, using the Vibram Christie wedge units. Whoever it is who did it used outsole only, so they didn't replace the midsole or the cork or anything inside the shoe. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with the work as far as I can see. I actually recommend doing outsole only and then full resole and then outsole only, so alternating between, depending on who you are, how hard you use those boots, the circumstances that they're used in. The reasoning behind that is a big subject, probably more than I can fit into this video, so we'll not cover that right now. The thing is, these boots are already not original, and I will be moving them on to a new owner. It doesn't make any sense to keep any of these components now, so I will be replacing everything, including the footbeds, so that the new owner of these boots is not standing on the previous owner's footprint. The person looking to own a pair of redwing Clapton Classics is probably going to want them to look like a pair of redwing Clapton Classics. I will be keeping these as close to the original components as possible. However, I am still going to upgrade the midsole to leather because the pros versus cons on that one are outweighed by the pros for leather. So let's get started. In a second, I'm going to be attaching the footbeds and gemming to the upper, so the upper leather or the rest of the shoe. Originally, these would have been stapled in place, and you'll see when I was removing the footbeds that I had to cut through those staples. I personally prefer to stitch them in. I've tried loads of different methods, so I've searched long and hard for the original stapling machine, but there just wasn't one available to me. So I tried using a pneumatic stapler with like a swaging block behind that in order to turn the individual legs of the staples out. But it was very, very slow, and I had my concerns that the actual legs of the staples would start to cut through the gemming, which you can often see with the original staples have cut little holes into the gemming. So I never really used that idea. I also went through a stage of stitching through the original staple holes and then tying the thread off. But again, it was very, very slow, and I didn't really see any advantage over that, as opposed to just running one continuous lock-stitched thread around the perimeter of the shoe. Again, I can continue to talk about this for quite a while as to where the start and stop points are and at the different reasons why I might start and stop in a different place. But for the purpose of this video, which is just to explain why it is that I stitch it in, we'll leave it at that. So this brings us on to the welts. I always skive the joints in my welts to make them as invisible as I can possibly achieve. This may seem to be a bit overkill on a shoe that originally just had butt joints, which are very visible. However, I have got a good reason for why I do that. So by skiving the joint and making it more or less invisible, I can move it away from the most hidden part of the shoe. So on the inside, in the arch area where it's less likely to get noticed, I can move it forwards and backwards a bit. The purpose of moving it forwards and backwards a bit is because welting comes on a continuous roll. It's not possible to get full grain leather on a continuous roll without some joints in there. Cows are only so big, and considering that they cut that leather in thin strips across the length of a hide, you're going to have to put a joint in there if you want it to be longer than a cow. So I don't want to put those joints, which have been manufactured in there, I don't want to put those at a high stress point. So the welt's under a lot of stress when I'm stitching around the toe, around the heel, and also at the flex point, which is on like the ball of your foot. The shoe's going to be under a lot of pressure there. You don't really want to put joints there because they're likely to fail. So by skiving my joints, I can move the welt up and down in order to move any joints that might be in this piece of welting away from a high stress area. On a very high end pair of shoes, you would 100% choose a piece of welting that had no additional joints in it, and then you would hide your joint, the only one, despite how invisible it is, in the inside of the arch where it's even less visible. However, these are not crazy high-end bespoke shoes, so there's no real need to be throwing away sections of welts that have got joints in there, and it's absolutely fine to have those joints. I just choose to move them to areas where they're least likely to fail. This is a huge subject, and I can genuinely talk about this one for a very long time, but for the purpose of this video, which is just to highlight some of the things that I do, I'll leave it at that too. So that's everything on this pair of Clapton Classic boots. As previously mentioned, I will be giving these away or the alternative resole option to a randomly selected subscriber of this YouTube channel at the end of the month. Many of you will already know, a couple of weeks ago I asked what soles people would like to see fitted to this particular pair of boots. The results were not what I expected, and it was pretty unanimous for the black traction tread sole, so that's what we fitted. Boots have essentially had everything replaced except for the uppers. They've had new leather footbeds, new flat welts in brown, new gemming, new cork, new leather midsoles, and the redwing traction tread sole in black. It's essentially the redwing wedge sole package using the traction tread sole in black, but with a whole bunch of optional extras. I'll ask if you're a subscriber of this channel that you do keep an eye out for the announcement of who's going to get these, as I don't think there's any way that I can contact a subscriber privately. It doesn't matter if you are from across the globe, as I will post these globally. All I ask is that whoever it is, if you are on the other side of the world, that you would pay any additional postage fees or customs charges that I would normally incur. I'll put a link in the description that will take you to our website, where you will find the new section which has got all of the genuine redwing resole options, along with all of our ordinary resole options and custom resole options. I'll also put a discount code in the description that will get you 10% off of all resoles that are ordered from the website. That was a lot of information to fit into one video, and I think I've covered everything, so I shall see you in the next one.